This conference will now be recorded.
Donc, voilà. Donc, encore une fois, très bienvenue et merci d'être là. Avant de commencer, moi, je voudrais juste vite fait vous expliquer la fonctionnalité de notre plateforme GoToMeeting parce qu'on va l'utiliser aussi pour les rencontres virtuelles en l'hiver. Donc, vous êtes déjà bien arrivés. En bas, vous voyez 4 boutons. Et pour éteindre ou allumer votre microphone, il faut choisir le bouton à gauche, suivi par le bouton pour le caméra juste à côté. Il y a aussi la possibilité d'envoyer des messages. Vous pouvez envoyer des messages privés ou des messages à tout le monde. Pour faire ça, il y a le petit bouton là, juste en haut à droite. Ensuite, le petit cadre où vous pouvez voir votre image ou votre vidéo. Vous pouvez changer votre nom et mail d'adresse, adresse email. Et d'ailleurs, avant de commencer les rencontres virtuelles, c'est toujours mieux de vérifier si vous avez une bonne connexion d'Internet, est-ce que la caméra et le microphone marchent bien, est-ce que la qualité du son est bonne, et essayer de créer un environnement professionnel. Donc, essayez d'être à l'heure, bien sûr. Choisissez un endroit tranquille, sans des bruits, sans des distractions. C'est toujours mieux d'éteindre le microphone quand vous ne parlez pas, mais laissez votre caméra allumée pour créer une connexion personnelle. Si vous avez un company roll-up, mettez-les dans le fond pendant votre meeting et préparez-vous bien en recherchant le site d'Internet du fournisseur, de regarder la présentation si disponible, bien sûr. Et c'est important que vous avez votre propre présentation ainsi, prête à partager, et pareil pour votre coordonnée. Et n'oubliez pas de demander les coordonnées du fournisseur que vous avez rencontré. Et ça peut aider aussi de préparer une liste avec des mots en anglais dont vous allez avoir besoin pendant la conversation. Donc ensuite, pendant les rencontres d'affaires, vous allez vous retrouver dans une salle d'attente. Et des fois, ça peut prendre quelques minutes avant qu'on vous laisse rentrer parce que, bon, bien sûr, il y a plusieurs rencontres. Donc, des fois, il y a un peu de retard, mais n'inquiétez-vous pas. Ensuite, on va vous donner les droits de partager votre écran. Et pour faire ça, il faut retourner vers le bouton en bas et c'est le bouton qui s'appelle Screen. Et ensuite, vous pouvez choisir quelle partie de votre écran vous voulez partager. Si vous voulez changer ou vérifier les paramètres de votre caméra et audio, c'est juste à côté de la fonction du chat. Et ensuite, si jamais vous avez des problèmes techniques, c'est toujours mieux de se connecter à l'Internet par câble au lieu du Wi-Fi parce que c'est un peu plus lent. Ça peut aider de quitter l'application et de revenir tout de suite. Sinon, essayez d'éteindre votre caméra pour améliorer la qualité du son. Donc, je vous remercie pour votre attention. Et maintenant, juste quelques mots par rapport à notre programme de la journée. Donc, Monsieur Wenzel de la Chambre de Commerce du Maroc et Monsieur Holzgriff du BME vont vous accueillir. Ensuite, on va vous expliquer un peu les activités du BME et l'initiative d'achat. On aura 2 présentations d'entreprises par Monsieur Becker de BPV et Monsieur Dipol de Tetra Pak. Et à la fin, on aura une discussion virtuelle accessible à tout le monde. Donc, merci beaucoup et je passe la parole à Monsieur Wenzel.
Yeah, thank you very much, Agnes Janikowski, for that brief introduction and for the technical details. From my side, bienvenue, welcome. We are glad to have you with us today for that supplier seminar. I would like to take this opportunity to thank our partners from BME, the Federal Association for Supply Chain Management. As we've just discussed a bit in the beginning, I think it is the right time to organize a series of conferences, events, and projects like this, because there's a lot of opportunities between Morocco and Germany, also given the geographical proximity of Morocco to Germany. We'll come to this later. Let me briefly only say a few words about the German Chamber Network and the German Chamber in Morocco. So the German Chamber of Commerce and Industry in Morocco is part of the German Chamber Network, the global German Chamber Network, with more than 140 offices in 92 locations. The German Chamber here in Morocco has been initialized in 1997, so we are about to celebrate our 25th anniversary next year. We are currently serving up and about 520 member companies, German companies, but also Moroccan companies that are actually working together with German companies, for instance. And we have one office in Casablanca with about a staff of 14 people in different varieties of services for projects, for event management, and other facilities that we host to support German-Moroccan economic relations. And as we've seen in the past, and we will talk about this later, Morocco became more and more attractive for Germany as an economic partner, also as an investment destination. And it's more than right to actually see how can we benefit also in terms of strengthening Morocco exports to Germany in supplying specifically needed raw material and goods, further processed goods for industrial value chain processes in Germany. So we are very glad. We hope that with this conference and with the further activities attached to this project, we will initiate long-lasting partnerships and business relationships between Moroccan suppliers and German buyers, between partners from both Germany and Morocco. Again, thank you very much, and I wish all of you an interesting insights into the opportunities of partnership between Germany and Morocco. Olaf Holzgräfe, the floor is yours. You are still on mute. Olaf, you are still on mute.
Sometimes I have to listen to my colleagues how to use GoToMeeting. So, encore une fois, au nom de l'association Supply Chain Management, Purchasing, Logistique, je souhaite également la bienvenue à tous les participants. Merci à notre partenaire, la Chambre de Commerce allemande en Maroc. Et je tiens également à saluer l'association Euro-Méditerranée et notre partenaire de projet Connect Achat en Maroc, l'ASMEX et l'AMCA. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity. As you see, also my colleague from the German Marocan Chamber, we speak in English, so don't be surprised. We as an association follow the rules, one event, one language, and so we try to build a bridge on a common language, which is English. So we also communicate to our colleagues in Germany in English so that everything is comparable. If we look back to the last year in 2020, when we organized the first time the first purchase initiative for Maghreb, we recognize that the German government, but also we as associations done the right step. We as an association with the Northern Africa region, the Maghreb region, and especially Morocco as a hub for future developments. There are a lot of developments taken place in the last couple of years, which I think make Morocco especially attractive for German companies. We, as an association, we look a little bit more deeper into the, let's say, trade development in procurement for Africa, and we recognized that France, Spain, and Italy take out of the Maghreb region the same size of products as Germany take out of Southern Africa. On the other hand, France, Spain, and Italy take out of South Africa less than Germany. So we see there are opportunities for German companies which are not discovered yet and which want to change it together. And Morocco, I think, has a special place in that because there is a huge opportunity for German companies in the area of automotive, aeronautic, and other activities in production materials and also in logistics. So I'm looking forward to the second purchase initiative so that we as associations and companies can work closer together with a region is right direct in front of Europe, and we will talk about later. It's also a good idea for our German companies to shorten their supply chains in challenging times of COVID and supply chains which are disrupted. If you look to China, Northern Africa, Asia, wherever you go, you see you have challenges in the supply chain, and as shorter they are, as better you can react. So I'm looking forward to this purchase initiative Maghreb, together with our partner, the German Chamber. Thank you to the colleagues in Casablanca and in Morocco which support us. I hope we will welcome a lot of Moroccan companies in November. And Agnes, the floor is yours. Good luck. Thank you very much for participating today, and see you hopefully in our B2B meetings.
I would like to give you a brief introduction to the activities of the BME as a company. I'm going to do this part in English, so apologies for that. The BME is the German Association for Supply Chain Management, Procurement and Logistics. We consist of 4 main branches, namely BME Association, BME Academy, BME Net and BME Marketing. We have more than 9,700 industry and small and medium enterprise member, which amount to a total purchasing volume across all sectors of 1.25 billion euros. We have more than 100 employees and we organize more than 900 events per year. The BME and its branches cover 4 important areas: qualification, know-how, services and network. The most important being qualifications. The BME Academy is the largest provider of training, certifications and education in the areas of procurement and supply chain in Germany. Since 2000, the Academy has trained and certified more than 100,000 people. In the area of know-how, we provide our members with the PMI, which is the Purchasing Manager Index, and we have about 25 expert councils with over 700 member companies that discuss current procurement topics, for example, risk management, compliance, digitalization, value management, with the purpose of understanding the procurement of tomorrow, its challenges, its opportunities, and so forth. The BME services, for example, the B2B services like the Purchasing Initiative or the Sourcing Seminar Moldova, the Sourcing Day Malaysia, serve the purpose of assisting companies who are interested in entering, exploring and expanding into new markets. And we are the largest network provider for procurement in Europe. A look at the current situation in Germany. So the x-axis stands for years, the y-axis stands for procurement growth. In Germany, anything above 50 signifies growth. As you can see, the financial crisis and its effects in 2009 have had an impact on Germany, and there has been a decline since 2018, and then the hard hit in 2020 due to COVID, but the curve seems to be picking up again. A look back at the year 2020 and the beginning of 2021, COVID is not the only problem. So there are trade conflicts, especially between the USA and China. There's Brexit, climate change, electromobility, future trends, and so forth. Buyers are faced with many challenges. And procurement is also rapidly evolving. And this is an opportunity for you as the supplier to present yourselves as a problem solver and a reliable partner. For example, with the development of electromobility, procurers require new suppliers, and therefore new processes need to be put in place. Having less partners requires also more exchange and more transparency between the partners. But it's also need to take into account life cycles of products and the fast-moving consumer and how this will affect sustainability. Buyers and suppliers need to be prepared to tackle new challenges. Last year, we conducted a COVID survey to cover current challenges of our buyers, and this is basically the outcome. So you see like these 9 main points buyers have focused on. They're all related to the supply chain in a way. Above all, there's transparency, the need for transparency in supply chains. So if you can, provide maximum information to your partner, and this goes hand in hand with reliability. So you need to be reliable in areas of production times, price, quality, delivery times, and so forth. And there's also a trend of moving away from single sourcing, which has been a problem in the past year, especially in combination with company bankruptcies. So if you are financially stable and safe, show it, make it clear to your potential partner. Further challenges have been digitization, which also affects the supply chain, new work organization, assessment challenge. And what is next? What awaits buyers and companies in the future. On the one hand, there's procurement organization, so you need to rethink leadership culture, organization, structure. You have topics like central versus decentral buying, make or buy, team structures, shared services. Sustainability is a big concern. There are aspects of social responsibility and environmental standards that will keep buyers occupied in the future. As already mentioned before, digitization is also a big part. It involves big data processes, data analytics, and e-solutions. Lastly, I would like to explain a bit more the activities of our international department. We focus on various areas. So there's B2B matchmaking. We organize events. We provide a supplier database. We provide market know-how, and so forth. We pursue activities all over Europe and beyond, as you can see in this little map. And another of our projects is the Bme Sourcing Platform. It's a sourcing and B2B platform for purchasing, supply chain, and logistics. So suppliers can register and buyers can identify potential new suppliers. As of January 21, we've had more than 9,500 visitors. There have been about 300,000 profile views in 2020 and 600,000 clicks. As a supplier, it allows you to be visible 24/7. Every single day of the year. You get individual profiles, newsletters, and image film. On the right, you can see our current partners. And if you'd like to know more about this, this area, just don't hesitate to go into bmeopensourcing.com to learn a little bit more. Another important branch are the Bme events. The Bme Symposium, above all, which is our biggest annual event that happens every November. There are other events like the Solution Days, the European Procurement Excellence, the Pharma Supply Chain Congress, and CE Procurement and Supply Chain Forum. Ensuite, je vais faire ça en français encore. Juste quelques mots par rapport à notre initiative d'achat. Donc, c'est l'initiative achat pour les entreprises maghrébines. On se concentre sur le Maroc, l'Algérie et la Tunisie. C'est financé par le Ministère Fédéral allemand de l'économie et de l'énergie. La participation est gratuite pour les entreprises sélectionnées et, les entreprises auront l'opportunité d'avoir des discussions individuelles avec des acheteurs. En ce moment, on a 29 entreprises allemandes intéressées. On se concentre sur les secteurs suivants, donc traitement des métaux et produits métalliques, construction mécanique, produits en plastique, génie électrique, électronique, autres matériaux comme chimie, papier, bois et services. Pour commencer le procès, vous recevez le profil de votre chambre de commerce au Maroc, vous complétez le profil est envoyé aux acheteurs. Et si vous êtes sélectionné pour les B2B, vous allez recevoir l'information par votre chambre de commerce, également avec le B2B schedule. Et les rencontres d'affaires vont se passer entre le 24 novembre et le 4 décembre de cette année. Si vous voulez obtenir plus d'informations, n'hésitez pas de contacter Madame Schmidt de la Chambre Allemande de Commerce et d'Industrie au Maroc. Et je vous remercie pour votre attention. Et maintenant, je vais passer la parole à Monsieur Becker. Mr. Becker, the stage is yours. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. I will just share my screen. Okay. No, not like that. Where are we at? Here. Okay, yes. Hello from my side as well. Today, I'm pleased having the chance to introduce BPW. That's the agenda for today. So I will just introduce myself and then talk about BPW. And last of all, I will explain how we work at the supply chain management, which is the group function at BPW that is responsible for all purchasing related activities, and also what is important for suppliers, or what we expect from suppliers. Okay, so yeah, my name is Aljoscha Becker. I'm the market screening promoter at BPW. That means that I'm responsible for the initial contact with new suppliers. So if suppliers are interested in starting a cooperation with BPW, I would be the first person to get into contact with. Then I will evaluate, talk to the responsible buyers, and check for a current demand, or if there's a strategic fit for any future sourcing projects. And besides this, I also evaluate international procurement markets and check for new suitable suppliers, and also participate in these BME sourcing events, which are very good to find new suitable and competitive suppliers. All right. Okay. There we go. Okay. Telling you a little bit about the world of BPW. I would like to start with this short company statement. The world of transport is on the move like never before. Open-mindedness, willingness to learn, curiosity.
C'est des Allemands. ساكن هذوك les Allemands عرفتي ils ont واحد AHK هذيك de la coopération ديالهم.
Sorry. Was it a question, or can I just go ahead? Sorry, I didn't.
Go ahead. I think we just had to mute it.
Oh, okay. All right, no problem. We'll just start again. So the world of transport is on the move like never before. Open-mindedness, willingness to learn, and curiosity are the keys to the future for the BPW group. And this company statement explains pretty much our attitude at BPW. So we are not waiting for a change to happen, but we actively want to work on this change, and we want to develop new products, and we are ready to adapt quickly to any changes. And through this, we want to stay competitive and successful today, but also in the future. So talking about our attitude and how we work at BPW, now I would like to tell you a little bit more about what we do at BPW. So as you can see here on this slide, we develop and manufacture running gear applications for the commercial vehicle industry, and we have more than 100 years of experience in doing this. And the awards we won over the last years really prove that we are the running gear innovator, constantly improving our products, but also developing new innovative products that meet the customers' demand. Through this, we are able to provide holistic solutions for different user groups, which are mainly vehicle operators and vehicle manufacturers. And therefore, we offer a mobility and system partnership, which enables our customers to build their products, so the logistic vehicles, in an easy way. We give them the support they need, but also with our products, we ensure that the downtimes of trailers are at a minimum, so the uptime is even higher, and our customers can be successful in their business as well. All right, so our running gear, which I just showed you, is our core competence, our core product. But like I said, we are willing to change and to adapt to new trends. And e-mobility is one of these current trends, and or it's not even a trend, but it's probably the future. And we also want to provide or to offer solutions in this area, and therefore we started our e-mobility business unit, I think like 6 years ago, and we're able to develop an electric driven axle. I will show it later to you. First, I would like to present another company statement. We support our customers to make their transport task emission-free and can solve problems in a resource-friendly, secure, process-oriented, and increasingly autonomous way. So that also shows that we are actively working on the new way of mobility. So we are ready for that and offering products for our customers so they can be more sustainable in their logistic processes. All right, and on this slide you can see our electric driven axles. Currently the smallest version, the 7.5 ton application or 7.5 axle is has already been introduced to the market, and the bigger versions, the 15 ton and 26 ton axle is currently in a conceptual stage, but will be presented to the market later. Okay, and as I already talked about products which enable our customers to become more sustainable, it's also important for us at BPW to become more sustainable, and that's another challenge we're currently working on and making progress. So sustainability is a question of attitude, and that is why this idea is reflected not only in our strategies, products, and services, like I mentioned, but also in our management and corporate culture. All right, that was a short overview about what we do at BPW and how we work and what's important for us. Now I would like to give you some facts and figures about BPW. So BPW was founded in 1898, so exists for more than 120 years. Worldwide, the BPW group has more than 7,000 employees, and in 2019 we were able to sell more than 450,000 axles worldwide. And through this, we were able to generate a turnover of more than 1.4 billion euros. So you can see our sales by segments. So about 60% of our turnover is made by running gear technologies, 34% by parts and services, and 6.6% is made by truck and trailer equipment. Okay, so now I would like to give you an overview about our supply chain management. Like I mentioned, at the supply chain management, we are responsible for all purchasing related activities. So as we have several production sites worldwide, our purchasing department is also or has a decentralized organization. So at our 4 production sites in Wil, which is in Germany, Szombathely in Hungary, Mező in China, and Automotive, we have, which is in Turkey, sorry, we have four divisions. One is master forming, hot forming, cold forming, and as well assembly groups. And in all these divisions, we have 3 functions, which is of course the buyer, which is responsible for getting into contact with the suppliers and discussing the contracts. The supplier quality engineer make sure that all parts meet our demands, the quality demands, and the supplier logistics engineer is responsible for all logistics related activities and tasks. And these three functions are supported by the controlling, by the cost analysis and the shared services, and also by the market screening. Okay, and here on this slide, I just prepared a general overview about our demand for production materials. So as you can see, we have quite a broad demand. For example, we need screws, bolts, and all kinds of fasteners, but also castings, forged parts, stampings, metal profiles, assembly groups, like for example brake chambers or airbags for our suspensions, but also rubber parts, springs, bushes. So this is just to give you an overview about our broad production material demand. And then, last of all, what is important for us if we start a new cooperation with the supplier? First of all is the ISO 9001 certification, which is mandatory for all suppliers. BMWi itself is IATF 6949 certified, and if we're looking at products with a safety relevant function, suppliers also need to be IATF 6949 certified. And the ISO 14001 and ISO 50001 are advantages. They are currently not mandatory, but like I said, as BMWi works on becoming more and more sustainable, I think that these certifications probably will be mandatory in the future as well for potential suppliers. And I would like to end my presentation today with stating that BMWi is interested in building long-term mutually beneficial partnerships with suppliers, and we're also willing to support our suppliers to develop them, to offer them the support they need. And there's just one very important reason for this, or it is that onboarding of suppliers is a long process, which is which takes a lot of time and also expensive for us. So we are interested in just working not only on an annual base, but really to build up a long-term partnership with our suppliers. All right, thank you very much. And if you have any questions, I will gladly answer them.
Thank you very much for your presentation, Mr. Becker. Are there any questions? Nothing? Okay. Our next speaker is slightly delayed, so we're just going to have a brief discussion between us.
So also from my side, Mr. Becker, thank you very much. And as we discussed, Mr. Becker, the challenges are quite big in the automotive industry. Just one question: how many suppliers roundabout did BPW have overall? 10,000, 20,000?
No, not that many. I think we have about 200 key suppliers, if you can call it like that, and overall, yeah, it varies a little bit from year to year, but I think like 650 to 700 suppliers.
So this is a huge number, and therefore also I can imagine that it's not an easy job to coordinate them. So you are also acting worldwide, or did you have certain kind of focuses?
That's yeah, really depends on the material. So sometimes it's easier for us to source in Europe because we develop with suppliers products, for example, our suspension systems, and then it's easier to have them buy, so we can travel there and be in close contact. But generally, we just look for the most competitive suppliers with the best price and best quality. So we're active really worldwide with a stronger focus on the so-called best cost countries. And localizing is also a topic, very important topic for us, as we have a small production site, for example, in Russia as well. And it's important to source products in Russia as well at a certain amount. So yeah, it really depends, but in general, we are sourcing worldwide. Yeah.
So this is also a suggestion from BME side to all the suppliers now and to all the companies now here in Maroc. So if you get prepared for the B2B meetings in November, for example, so it's also helpful if you have an easy and a short look into the strategy of your potential partner, that you know how he's acting, because it makes easier to even to highlight your way of working or your value for your potential new partner, as you can see it for example as BPW, working automotive, working in a really heavy area, and if you look into the under the axles of German cars, you may see BPW sign nearly everywhere. So it's not only showing up what you are able to do, so it's whenever you talk to a German company, show what you can do for your potential partner. And this is what Agnes said in the previous presentation of BME. Position yourself as a problem solver, because the potential buyer will come to you with a question because he has a problem. He needs somebody doing something for him. At the end of the day, your German buyer sells made in Germany. So from the beginning to the end, you are part of made in Germany. And as more you are prepared, as better are the chances to get into the position to becoming a partner. And whenever you talk to Mr. Becker or to some other buyers in our community, especially German companies looking for long-term partnerships. So maybe you start small, but it will grow if you can provide a certain kind of value.
Yeah, and let me add from my side. I'm talking about the automotive industry. I think this is a very exciting point in time and an exciting opportunity for Morocco, because the automotive industry, driven by the investments of Renault and PSA, created an environment of a supply industry here in Morocco, which is also to a certain degree German or in a French-German partnership. So there is lots of German suppliers already localized their production into Morocco. There is a lot of partnership with Moroccan companies, and the production of parts and components for the automotive industry is basically integrated into European value chains, into European logistics chains. So from the companies that we have at the Chamber, we've initiated a Cercle du Travail Automobile, like a working group automotive industry with around about 30 member companies. And from these companies, like 80 to 90% of their production in Morocco goes to European markets, goes into European value chains. And this is when you've said, Alyosha Becker, you are like sometimes sourcing from Europe. I mean, sourcing from Morocco is basically sourcing from Europe because of our geographical proximity, of our world-class infrastructure and the logistics we provide. We are basically 100% integrated into European value chains. And this is a huge opportunity to develop this portfolio further. Also with German buyers buying from Moroccan suppliers, because the ecosystem that has been created during the last 10 years or so, and which is still not very well known in Germany, is on a world-class level, also in terms of quality and also in terms of transparency and sustainability criteria you are expecting as a German buyer. So I think specifically for the automotive industry, this is very interesting to see how can we include Morocco even more into European value chains.
Maybe I can also mention one thing, Mr. Wenzel and also Mr. Becker. If we're looking into the purchase initiative to Maghreb, if you go to the chamber and ask for the participating company, BPW is one of the roughly 30 companies now raise their interest, and there are good companies like Kercher or Klaas, which are looking for potential suppliers. So you can ask for this number, and you will see that also a company in automotive. I will not take it now BPW as an example. I say it overall. I know it from the buyer that sometimes they have really strong requirements also in certification, like ISO 9001 or some other quality certification of ISO. And sometimes in other commodities, they have not so strong requirements because you deliver in a other area of their product or their products. And therefore, it's very important to look into the let's say RFI we send out, because there you can see requirements. Their requirements become, because they are not 100% equal, and then it depends in which kind of product you at the end deliver. And therefore, but nevertheless, if you can show up your quality and your own quality system, it's every time helpful also for a German company. The same as what Agnes is telling you, that you have to show first of all the certification or the qualification, or if you're financially stable, because it's helpful. And we will talk about a little bit later, Mr. Wenzel and I, as long as we wait for Mr. Diepold, because I think he will come within the next some minutes, that there is a lot of things that you can provide at pre-information to your potential partner, because it makes Mr. Becker easier to decide if you are qualified enough or not. And also, if you are not selected at the end by the German companies, it's not the question that you are not good enough. It's not the question, or it's not also the reason because you are not qualified, not big, not fast, or whatever enough. Sometimes it's just the reason that your product and your capacity, or your product is at the moment not the right product they are looking for. So, and we organized a purchase initiative Western Balkan now for 6 years, and there are companies which are really good qualified. They could participate 1 year, and the next year they are not selected because the company are looking for another focus. So this is what I want to point out. It's not only the reason that you are not good enough. It's sometimes just that your product is not fitting by 100% in their product portfolio they are looking for.
Yeah, and indeed, as you said, Olaf, we all have to always also consider a mid to long-term approach. And this is why it's important that the BME and the AHK, we are strong partners, because we are institutions that stay, that continue to consult and to advise companies how to partner with one another. Because even if, like for this year, it might be too short term, there might still be some pieces not fitting. it does not mean that like next year or the year thereafter, it's still possible to engage in a beneficial partnership, because we are also considering this initiative together with other projects and initiatives we have at the Chamber to actually continue to build industrial capabilities in Morocco to feed into a German and European supply chain. And I think this is also what Alyosha Becker said, and which is very important also to our Moroccan partners and friends. So we are not talking about German companies just sitting there to say, hey, what do you have? And if you don't have it, go away. But this is about developing a partnership also in assisting partners to become clients and long-term partners, because German companies, and this is also what you've mentioned, Alyosha Becker, they are interested in long-term partnerships, and they are willing to invest in creating long-term partnerships. And this is where I see it's a big opportunity for Moroccan companies to be able to find a German partner who is actually kind of like giving certain advice, who is actually advising in a way to developing jointly some capabilities to also help grow competitiveness for both sides. I think this is a very important element.
Completely right. And this was also the result of the last year first market purchase initiative. And I think it's also the way of what we now want to establish with this thing is it's a learning curve, not only for the companies in the Maghreb region, it's also a learning curve for the companies in Germany working together with the northern territories of Africa, Maghreb, Morocco, Algeria, and Tunisia. And I think if you as Moroccan companies can highlight your quality and capacity and take in mind the things Mr. Benson said, you have good chances, because the geographical position of Morocco is quite good for German companies. You have deep sea harbor, and the connection is quite good. You have also a tradition of working together with Spain and especially the southern European countries. So highlight this experience, and this gives you at least a good starting point for the negotiation and the discussions. So I know that my colleague Agnes is working hard for find Mr. Default. I hope we will find him.
Yeah, but maybe from my side, Olaf, a question to you.
Yeah.
I mean, Agnes, she already presented some key findings of what you do as BME and how you support companies and the feedback you receive. But maybe it would be interesting again from your perspective, from your personal perspective, where do you see the largest challenges for German suppliers post-COVID? What would you say? How did the pandemic contribute to a changing environment, and how does it result into kind of like what's the topics that are on the table for German suppliers currently?
Yeah.
For German buyers, sorry.
For German buyers, currently, what Mr. Becker and his colleagues now have on the table is quite a little bit, I will tell it, strange. If you talk to CPOs currently in Germany, you recognize that a CPO, which normally do strategic things, is currently doing a lot of operative things. I have a high-level management meeting yesterday here with some other associations and stakeholders of especially of this purchase initiative. And there was a CPO participating. By the way, it's also participating in the Western Balkan and Maghreb initiative. She said currently she's working back to the roots operative. She's looking for aluminium. She's looking for electronics. She's looking for nearly everything. And as more transparency she have inside of her supply chain, easier it is for her to act. So transparency is it's one of the major things. The colleagues of Mr. Becker and in all the other companies, they want to know what is the situation. What's the raw material situation at my supplier? What is the production situation at my supplier? What is the logistics situation if my products are on the road, ship or plane or wherever. And because they recognize that when for example, Ever Given was locked in the Suez Canal, there are some companies don't even know if is my container on the ship or not. Is my ship or is my container affected by the thing? We recognize that closed borders are things. The other thing is that digitalization will coming up. What means digitalization? Digitalization is that also this transparency stuff, what we call risk management, that you have to be part of this. This is also a very coming up issue in the supply chain, that you can communicate not only on email or sharing Excel files, that you're also able to, in ERP systems, SAP systems, to get more transparency in real time, to act or to have a strategic planning, for example. And the thing is, what's coming up, it's not so much related to COVID. It's also related to a political development in Germany and in Europe. It's the area of we call Lieferkettengesetz. It's a supply chain law. It's not in place right now. It will come in 23, and I can only suggest to all the suppliers all around the world, including Morocco, just to think about this issue: social responsibility, environmental responsibility, because your potential partner have to be responsible for that by German law in 2023. As more you can provide him information and support in that area, the easier it is for him to act with you, because you have to be part, or suppliers are now an integrative part in their responsibility chain, and therefore this is also a thing. By the way, we also have, everybody have to react environmental, sustainable, and because we only live in one world, and this will be a huge thing in the future. On the other hand, there is also what also Agnes said, is this things of let's say financial sustainability, because also in Germany a lot of small medium-sized enterprises have let's say challenges, not problems, but challenges, and therefore this is also will be a question. We in Germany, we are in a good situation that we've done our homework, or our government does his homework long time ago by reducing our debts. So we are our country is more stable than before, and then we can give more help to our companies by short time workage money, or than maybe some other countries. But nevertheless, there will be a lot of suppliers in Eastern Europe, in Germany, in Southern Europe, but also in China, which are maybe not in place tomorrow due to the situation that they have financial challenges.
And that might indeed be an opportunity for Morocco to position itself as an alternative for German companies needing to diversify their supply chains, wanting to diversify also their supply risks. You spoke about the Supply Chain Act, and we at the Chamber, obviously, we have it also on our table, and we will be offering sometime soon after the summer break also an information seminar for Moroccan companies. What does it actually mean? But could you kindly elaborate a bit? What's the logic behind it, or the concept behind it? What does it mean, Supply Chain Act, and why is it important for Moroccan companies as well?
The supply chain is an end-to-end question. As you know, we have a big discussion in the BME, because in 1954, when the BME as an association was founded by the companies, we only call us procurement or purchasing, and supply chain is more talking about the end-to-end. So end-to-end. Sometimes the logistic people say they are the supply chain people. Sometimes, most of them, the procure people say we are the supply chain people. So supply chain mean we're having from raw material until the delivery to the end customer. We have to cover everything and to organize this. And this becomes more and more complicated. And how this becomes more complicated, gives you also a reason. This is also maybe a result of the COVID crisis, which are bringing really the spotlight on certain kind of challenges. And one spotlight was that now in this situation which we have in Germany, where companies are looking for steel, aluminium, plastic, wood, paper, electronics. By the way, some German car makers cannot produce because they don't have chips from Taiwan. So if we look, then you have the question how I will work in the future, how I will organize my, for example, my inventory. In the past, it was clear that companies like BMWi or others reduce their inventory and go back more in the area of just in time. So their inventory was a truck or the container. Now, some companies are thinking about to maybe modify this a little bit more because they want to have maybe a stock so that they can act. By the way, we have a seminar last week by a company called Debatin, which is small, medium-sized enterprise. Now Mr. Diepold is here, but I will finish my sentence. They are working in a special area. They are small and medium-sized enterprises, and they have a really high, let's say, target in the area of sustainability. And then you see that sometimes you have as a buyer in your supply chain, you have two opportunities to act. First of all, you design your supply chain that it brings value and reduce costs. On the other side, you try to organize a supply chain that you are able to deliver. And at the moment, you are to be able to deliver. It's a definitive competitive advantage on the market, because only give you an example. If you now are a car maker and you have enough chips, you can produce and then you can sell. If you don't have chips, you cannot produce and you cannot sell. And at the end of the day, it's just a question who is first at the customer. And we have a lot of challenges also in, for example, in this means supply chain is a very complex thing, end to end. At the end, this is also a question for you as a supplier in Morocco, because, for example, if your packaging, for example, is not right, this will be by total cost of ownership put on your price if there are some German buyers to repack your stuff. So logistic and packaging is as important as the products themselves, because it's not helpful for Mr. Becker if the packaging is not correct. He has to calculate maybe 2 buyers or two employees in one of his plants to repack it. By the way, they are more expensive maybe than in Morocco, but this price comes up and suddenly the suppliers are surprised that the buyers say you are too expensive. But this is a total cost of ownership, which is also a very important calculation option for buyers. But now I will pass to Mr. Diepold. Mr. Diepold, we are happy that you make it. We just talked about the opportunities in supply chains, but now I think you are still the moderator of Tetra Pak. By the way, all the Moroccan people know that it well. When you buy milk and stuff, you see it. So, Mr. Diepold, it's your floor. By the way, I want to give you the information that this meeting today will be recorded for all the Moroccan people, so that the German Chamber can also put it on their website, because maybe there are some suppliers who want to listen to it afterwards. Thank you, Mr. Diepold, your floor.
To change here. Okay, now
we hear you. We can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, but maybe you switch off your camera because your picture is not moving. Then we can only hear you, okay. but hearing is good.
Yeah, that's okay. That's actually maybe an option. Sorry for that. Yeah, it's actually the meetings were extended. That's a little bit the challenge with the project business. Now but you still can hear me, right? Now I have actually stopped the camera. Yeah. Okay. You can hear me. Yeah. Okay. Perfect. So then I will start with a short introduction. That's actually the Tetra Pak starting page. Actually, it's the which is actually true. We work a lot of I have been in Morocco several times, and goats is an quite present animal in Morocco as well, right? I have seen them at least a lot on the market, and in the slaughter markets and so on. It's actually sometimes almost scaring to see all these pieces of the goats in the markets. But also the markets I have seen there are really impressive, and as we can see here on the left-hand side, especially I have to say Marrakesh is one of the most impressive experience I ever made. A beautiful city, and I have also been in Tangier and in Agadir several times. So I wanted to explain how we at Tetra Pak work when it comes to our project activities, including sourcing in other countries. And in this context, you have to excuse a little bit that actually the presentation is not customized for Maghreb countries completely, since we have been talking a lot, we have been joining a lot of BME activities in Eastern Europe, Central Eastern Europe, because this is the territory I have been responsible for 13 years at Tetra Pak. And so the focus is a little bit in the presentation more about Eastern European sourcing, but I would say the same is valid for Maghreb countries, and I also will try to change it, at least for the supply speed dating we will have this year. So what I wanted to start with is actually to share with you how the organization looks like. We as Tetra Pak in the project business and in procurement are organized as actually state-of-the-art as most of the organizations. We have been organized as Europe, Central Asia, and now we talk about EMEA, which means Europe, Central Asia plus Greater Middle East and Africa. And we as an organization have an organization matrix category management for dedicated categories, which actually is installation services, tanks, third-party equipment, professional services, and we have a setup for the markets. And as I said, it is prepared for Eastern Europe. That's the reason why I have marked here the Eastern European region. But we also have Greater Middle East and Africa in the meanwhile as units in this geographical territory. So we have an office in Dubai, but we also have an office in Kenya, in South Africa, in Tunisia, so in several countries, and I also think in Morocco, where we actually cover both. On one hand, we have a clear focus on the categories, which actually means the functional point of view. What does it mean to manufacture, to buy a tank, to source, to do sourcing in this dedicated technical field? But also, we are close to the suppliers in the regions in Greater Middle East and Africa. And for Eastern Europe, it was like that actually we work with Eastern European countries, but we also have offices in Warsaw, Bucharest, Belgrade, Budapest, and so on. And that's the same is valid for Greater Middle East and Africa, and consequently for Maghreb countries. I also like this picture a lot because it's sort of making clear what we actually need in our business. And actually because Tetra Pak might be perceived as a company manufacturing carton, milk carton, filling lines to actually fill food, liquid food into a carton and send it to the supermarkets. But this is actually not the truth, at least not the complete truth. We also make projects where we actually create complete plants and build plants for food production. In this case, it's actually about goat milk powder plant in Western Europe, in this case, where we build a complete factory to manufacture goat milk powder for infant food for China. That's actually how a plant can look like at Tetra Pak, and for which we need, actually for everything what we do, we need engineering services, 3D engineering, electrical engineering, but also programming of our individual developed program, but also mechanical engineering in such projects, which also means static calculations and design to cost activities. But what we always need as well is mechanical electrical installation services, which is sort of something which is actually attractive when we talk to Maghreb in both directions. I would actually perceive as the Maghreb countries and Morocco as a country where we can actually buy mechanical, electrical installation services locally for projects in Morocco, but potentially we can also hire people from your country for projects outside of Morocco, potentially for other countries in the Maghreb territory, or maybe even for other countries south from Morocco, or in the other direction in countries like in the Balkan countries, in Italy, or in France. So mechanical and electrical installation services are for local business, but also for international business. This is what we are aiming for. That's a lot easier for tanks and vessels because it's very easy to buy, to source, to manufacture and engineer a tank in Morocco, which will be finally be transported to any other country, Greater Middle East and Africa, or even to other countries. So we have a lot of tank manufacturers, as a sample, in Eastern Europe, which actually deliver tanks not only to the EMEA territory, but even to America or China. So it's actually, I would always say that actually Mid and Eastern Europe, Central Eastern Europe is sort of a center of expertise for a lot of elements, and this might be valid in the future for Maghreb as well. And what we also buy a lot is actually frames and structures and platforms. And I like this topic a lot because this is sort of an entry point. When we actually start to work with companies working for us in the field of stainless steel, actually building something, weld something to deliver prefabricated equipment to a construction site, then this is usually the starting point, because it's a lot easier to start with frames, structures, and platforms compared to stainless steel piping for food production. So this is actually the portfolio we usually buy for our big projects, local projects, but also for international projects. And then what we have recognized in the projects, that actually big projects are getting more and more relevant and are getting more and more complex. So my key message is that actually I'm busy with big projects usually. L3 projects at Tetra Pak mean projects bigger than 5 million. L3 plus projects means projects bigger than 20 million euros. So when I have been joining Tetra Pak in Germany, a 1-2 million euro project was sort of a sensation. In the meanwhile, we actually permanently talk about 10, 20, 30, 50, 80 million euro projects. And then actually, as you can imagine, this makes the project rhythm in such a project completely different. So we are confronted with a different size of a project, more turnkey, less equipment. And on the other hand, what we also recognize, the time frame to deliver, to engineer and deliver such a project is getting shorter and shorter. So we are actually at the end in the same situation as automotive, where we have to engineer more complex products in a shorter period, and we also have to deliver the products in a shorter period. So this is the overall development, which is actually making clear that we have to change the way of working in our plant solution industry. And the way how we want to attack these topics is actually, one of them is actually, this is sort of the flow in a project, where we usually have branded products, which are usually our own products. So we actually have homogenizers, pasteurizers, filling machines, and other equipment, which is standardized and produced repetitively. But on the other hand, we still have a lot of equipment which is project unique. And what we actually try to do is actually to consume more of the project unique stuff through prefabrication. So prefabrication for a project is sort of a hybrid between a standard product and the site work. So we try to do more and more prefabrication for the projects at site to reduce the pressure on the site works. But at the end, we are still confronted with an enormous number of items which have to be developed in a project. So we will see how far we can get, but there is always a project unique development. So we develop standard products, we develop suppliers to be able to do prefabrication, project unique, but we also have site works and project unique development, which actually counts a lot for what I have said before, mechanical electrical installation is usually something what we deliver with local companies. And this has to develop locally together with these companies. That's the reason why we need the same capability for our projects from our suppliers everywhere where we deliver projects. And this is sort of the rhythm how we work internally, where actually I'm visualizing this is the project cycle, where we actually more busy with projects in early stages from the category and L3+ organization. Category management I've mentioned before. We have category management for tanks, installation services, automation services, and all the dedicated categories. L3+ is a function bridging the size of the project, so it's a center of expertise. And we actually, category management and L3+ is working on the pre-project stages of a project. So whenever we are well prepared in the pre-project, it's easy to hand over this architecture of a project to the project purchasing in the market. Meaning we develop infant food, goat milk plant for Morocco with the central units, but we have to deliver this project locally in Morocco. It actually would mean we build up everything from pre-project engineering, purchasing in the central sense. But on the other hand, there is a point where we hand it over to the local purchasers in an engineering unit in Morocco, supported by a unit, most probably in case of Morocco, either from Sweden or from Dubai, where we have a center. They actually support this unit, but at the end, the actual site activities take place in Morocco, where the build project, the factory has to be built. That's the reason why we try to hand over the set we have built to the project purchasing and regional procurement in Greater Middle East and Africa, Maghreb, Morocco. This is our rhythm. The category in L3+ project organization is purchasing organization is supporting the project whenever an incident or accident is happening. This is also clear. So we are actually coming back to the project as soon as something is going wrong, but overall the local organization is trying to deliver the project. This is the way how we are working. And then there are actually more additional aspects about what is actually important, but then you can see this when I'm sharing the presentation through the documentation you will get from the purchasing association. And as I mentioned before, what we do more and more, because it's sort of a consequence of the rhythm and the complexity, we are actually adapting more and more the automotive and shipbuilding mentality, which is also valid for the construction industry. So this industry is got aware of that actually you have to find a way to modularize your solutions, otherwise you can't deliver the product in the required time frame. So we do the same in the lower right corner. We do more and more prefabrication together with our suppliers to reduce the site effort. But there is actually a limitation. A natural limitation is actually, as you might imagine, it is actually difficult to transport and to bring in equipment dependent on the size, how it is. So we do more and more, as a sample, even pipe racks, which we pre-manufacture and then we actually bring into the building. But in a later stage in the same building, it might be impossible to bring in a pipe rack. So the sequencing is very important, as well as the assembly of a car. But also, there is actually also something as a challenge which actually we should not ignore. We frequently have a challenge where the construction works are delayed or changing and so on and so on. So we still, when we have an infrastructure and the architecture for a project, we have to be flexible to change the way of working. Sometimes we were preparing the project to be assembled 80% for prefab, but at the end we were maybe only achieving 60% because we were actually confronted with limitation throughout project implementation. This is also happening. So what we also have recognized equally to automotive and other industries, expediting is a key element to be successful in the big projects. So whenever we do advanced activities together with the suppliers to make sure that the goods are arriving in the quality we expected them to arrive, but also on time, then we are actually in the situation where we can install a project according to our budget. So this is something what we focus a lot more in the meanwhile, together with the suppliers, to get everything done before the goods arrive at site. It is almost impossible to fix stuff at site. And I always said when I was joining Tetra Pak that the situation is actually even worse than in the automotive situation, because in automotive, you usually have to fix the stuff arriving at the automotive plant in the automotive plant. But in our case, it's even worse, because it is the customer side. It's actually where we are fixing stuff, which actually means the customer is watching us when we are adjusting the equipment. So we are actually observed by the customer with whatever we are doing at site. So it's actually an additional criteria. And actually coming from this, what I have said before, what we are doing as a sample for the tanks in the project business, we have actually a massive project volume in total. So 50 million euros for tanks 2020 for the project business in Europe, Central Asia. And this is actually sort of the volume we work with when we try to find out what is actually best cost country sourcing for 50 million euro tanks where we need in this territory. So, and this is something where we will extend our sourcing activities to Greater Middle East and Africa. Currently, we work a lot with European suppliers for projects in Greater Middle East and Africa, but we don't think that this is the best idea. What we would like to do, we would like to develop capability and to extend capability in Greater Middle East and Africa to actually deliver the projects in this region, but also later on to be a little bit more in a dialogue, in a sense. Why shouldn't we buy tanks for France, Iberia, but also for Germany from Northern Africa? So this is something what we have to see, and actually we also have to understand 15 million euro now, Europe, Central Asia. This might be 2025 when we talk about EMEA. So the project volume will expand, and the territory where we actually can buy the equipment will equally expand. But overall, it is clear we would like to limit the number of suppliers we work with. And actually, when we talk about tanks, within the same field, we actually have not only 50 million, we even have 30 to 40 million euros, where we have actually modules built out of stainless steel, sheet metal, and frames like tanks. We have actually a lot more than tanks, because a dryer, as you have seen before, is also out of sheet metal, made out of sheet metal and any sort of structure. So we have actually tanks, but we also have similar products, which we actually have been moving a lot to Eastern Europe in the last 10 years successfully. And actually now, as I said, we will expand our reflection on where can we actually buy the equipment. So I guess in half a year when we will meet again, I have a different landscape here where you can actually, the geographical scope will change significantly, where we then extend other countries. And this is how we usually work with. As soon as we got there, we have an approved supplier list, and there might be and there will be Maghreb country suppliers in our supplier list also for European projects. And then actually we actually have an infrastructure of how we work with agreements. And that's actually the usual rhythm at any company. We have a customer contract, we have law of regulations, we have Tetra Pak with requirements, and this is what we actually cascade through our agreements to the suppliers. And I can tell you, I will never accept to send a framework agreement to a supplier with the attachments we have, which we have developed, and the supplier is just signing this agreement and we start to work with each other. I will never accept this, because I usually tend to sit together with the supplier to go through to the framework agreement, because this is one of the most interesting points I actually have together with audits. I would like to make sure that both parties actually understand what we are signing when we work together. What I wanted to say with this picture here, we have a good set of documents developed to make the work, the joint work in a project as easy as possible. So everything is developed, but this doesn't mean that everybody understands what we are talking about. But we would like to work with you on a framework agreement with all the attachments which are relevant, to make sure as soon as we send you a new tender and RFQ documentation for a new project, you have actually understood 60 to 80% of our requirements through the framework agreement. And then we can actually together purely focus on the project unique requirements, because we always have project unique requirements. And this is also valid for the audits. We have developed an exceptional set of audits, which actually makes our dialogue easier. We don't perceive our audits as something like where we are teaching you how to work. No, we perceive this as well as a dialogue where we can learn from you. And that's actually the beauty of working for Tetra Pak in this global environment, because we learn a lot from our suppliers. And you might manufacture stuff differently, like compared to a supplier in Eastern Europe or to Western Europe. And this is actually what we would like to understand and actually develop even further together, because then it's a lot about center of expertise and best practices. So we are prepared, but we are not ready to send you these documents. You sign it and then we start to work together. We would like to understand together what we are sharing here. And then it's getting even more important that actually whenever we get to this situation that we work together and you are on the supplier list, then the capacity tracking is something exceptionally important. Because what we don't want, and actually we have to avoid, is actually that we get suppliers awarded which are actually overbooked. This is something very sensitive, because the suppliers don't tend to say no to a new tender. That's the reason why we have established tools to visualize the progress, but also the capacity at site in your workshop or with your workforce to deliver something at site, where we are very sensitive, because we will not allow you to agree on a deal when you are already booked with the same labor. So this is something specific, what we focus a lot since years to make sure that you are not overbooked. And on the other hand, which we can see in the lower part of this presentation, we also cannot accept such a situation that one supplier is very busy with our business, which is the blue part in the graph, and another supplier, which is equally capable, doesn't have any business with Tetra Pak. And this is actually what we try to avoid with capacity tracking, because we invest in our suppliers and you invest in us. That's the reason why at the end we have to make sure that you have a stable workload with our projects. Can you still hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Mr. Duval.
Ah, fantastic, thank you. I was maybe consuming more time than planned, but yeah. So then I'm happy to listen to questions and to answer to questions, but this will be maybe later a topic then. Yeah. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for the interesting presentations. Are there any questions in the audience?
Yes, I've got a question. Thank you, Mr. Stefan, for your presentation. Just brief introduction. I'm definitely from Sudan, Morocco. What you present is very interesting, because, for example, for us as a Moroccan company, we manufacture frames, structures, platforms, but we also offer mechanical services for multiple clients in Morocco and abroad. So my question is regarding your requirements regarding any certification. I don't know, ISO 9001 or 14001 or 45001. I don't know if there is any requirement regarding that, as Mr. Becker said in his presentation regarding BPW, or not?
There are requirements, but what we try to do to be as pragmatic and as possible, because we need to, at the end, we need to fulfill the customer requirements and the legal requirements. That's the most important. And then when it comes to standards like ISO 9001, 14001, this is something where we are very pragmatic and also, I think, realistic. I have audited, I think, roughly 50 suppliers in the last 10 years, which is sort of an affinity of mine. And I have seen a lot of suppliers showing me their quality handbook and their certification. And I frequently responded back to them after the audit that potentially this would have been a waste of money and time, because I have seen suppliers where we were going to the audit, we were asking questions, and there has been a consultant helping them to get the quality handbook in place. And this was actually the only one person in this forum explaining us how they are working. The management was there as well, but they were not able to answer our questions. And I have had such cases in Eastern Europe, and I don't like that. So actually for me, 9001 doesn't mean anything until I can see this process is established in this organization. I actually prefer companies having their own standards as an equivalent to 9001, which are actually deeply incorporated in the way of working. When it comes to other standards, like when we talk about frame structures, platforms, there are standards which we have to fulfill together, which is actually a sample the Euronorm 1090. So we have to make sure that actually any platform put into a building and into a plant has to fulfill requirements coming from static calculations and stuff like this, because dependent on the size and the level, and we have heavy platform packages in dryer projects. So we frequently have dryer platform projects where we actually buy platforms for 1 million, 1.5 million euros, just platforms for one project. And for this one, this is one of my favorites, which is on one hand a good entry point to work on it together. On the other hand, there are also already quite some requirements, because you have to fulfill what we can do in such a case. We can do the engineering, we can do the static calculations and hand over manufacturing drawings to you. This is the easy way. But whenever we develop this relationship, my expectation would be that the Moroccan platform supplier actually is covering at least engineering and actually delivering the design for manufacturing and everything connected to it together with the manufacturing. So I could actually live with having you as a platform supplier for a Moroccan project, or even for an international project, manufacturing the platforms. But in the second or third project, I would expect you to be more involved in engineering.
Sure. So
and that's actually a little bit of where we are actually working. What we usually do, we send a 3D model to the supplier, and he is making a manufacturing drawing out of the 3D model. But we can go beyond this, yeah.
Sure, that's how we are used to work here in Morocco.
Okay.
So generally there is some general engineering, and then for the detailed engineering is done in-house with, of course, then the manufacturing, the shipping, etc., according to client standards. So yeah, thank you.
Very good. And it's actually a good sample, because in this case, what we do, we educate you in a sense of what is required from hygienic perspective. And at the end, we actually expect you to tell us what is the most cost-efficient design to fulfill this requirement. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. I've got a second question. If I don't know if time allow us, but just regarding your different purchases, regarding the tanks, the frame, the structures, the platforms, all what I would categorize as boiler work. Do you have any idea of the tonnage, annual tonnage that you're ordering yearly abroad? That you're ordering to suppliers, the approximate tonnage, because that would be great.
The actual spend, you mean, right? The euros, how much money? Or
I mean the weight.
The weight. It's stainless steel. Okay. No, this is what I have to find out. That's a good question. Actually, we do it on a project level. but overall it's not so easy. But I think it's possible to find out. Yeah. So, but it's an interesting question. Yeah. Yeah. So we know when we actually don't know what is the equivalent to the 15 million euros of tanks we are buying. That's true, but I think it's actually possible to have an idea, and it's a good idea actually, even as an input. Maybe I will put it in the future presentation, which is actually 50 euros of things.
Our industry, yep. how we in order how we reflect when in order to have an idea about the size of a product, and how we code basically is based on the weights. That's why
absolutely. Yeah, I got it. And actually we have as a sample for the frames, when I mentioned frames, where we actually buy the pipe rack for the piping in the project. We usually in the big projects we have sort of between 40 and 60 tons of just these frames, which we actually put under the ceiling or we put on the floor to bring in our piping, the food processing piping. This is sort of in between 40 and 60 tons welded frames. And this is actually really the entry point to work with us, because in this case, we may even prepare the manufacturing drawings and we send it to the suppliers. And the supplier certainly has to manufacture these frames fulfilling Euronorm 1090 when it comes to the welding requirements and to your checks at site. But at the end, this is sort of a volume I have. And I also have volumes from other projects about what does it mean in platforms for a dryer project, and also what does it mean for the dryer itself and the tanks. We can extend this discussion, at least when we meet maybe in autumn, that I can give you an insight what it means in tons. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Yeah. But one is for sure, we only work with stainless steel. There's almost no carbon steel in our production sites. This is important. And whenever we are confronted with suppliers working with both, then we expect them to have a separated workshop.
Sorry, I didn't hear. Did you say that you're working only with carbon steel, or that you are not?
No, only with stainless steel. And okay. But we are ready to work with suppliers who are delivering both, but then we expect them to have a separated workshop. We would like you to have a dedicated workshop, a separated hall where you do the stainless steel, and another one where you do the carbon steel works.
Sure. Yes, that's standard. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for those questions. Thank you again, Mr. Default, for the interesting presentation. I'm going to let Olaf and Mr. Wenzel take over to conclude today's event.
Thank you for the questions.
If it's okay, I would just like to add something to the previous discussion between Mr. Holzgreff and Mr. Wenzel. As you talked about the current challenges, I think you mentioned the digitization as one part of it, or as one current challenge for the purchasing of German companies. I think it's not only a challenge, but it's also a good opportunity to be, especially the transparency. And I've been able to use digital sourcing platforms like Scoutbee and 7Q1. And there may be just one hint, I think, is that when suppliers have a good website and a good internet presentation, it's easy for these software platforms to find you. So that might be an opportunity for all suppliers worldwide to start a cooperation with German companies, as it's easier to find companies. So maybe this is just as an add-on to your previous discussion.
Thank you. I think we have had a good discussion today. So once more from my side as BME, and also I think in the name of the German Chamber of Morocco, thank you very much to you, Mr. Becker, and to you, Mr. Diepold. I think it was an interesting overview about how is project managing organized and how is automotive requirements are organized. And I think it shows good that this purchase initiative we organized now in combination with the Euro-Mediterranean Association and the German Chamber Network, especially now here, the German Chamber in Morocco, gives a really big umbrella from industry demands for the Moroccan companies. And I want to highlight one thing, because we have a long discussion or a short discussion with Mr. Wenzel. I want to highlight one thing by us as an association. You as a Moroccan company, please show the development of the economy of the last years of Morocco, because I don't know how much companies have this overview, what happened in Morocco in the last 10 years. Show your opportunity to integrate yourself in international supply chain, because I know that not every company in Germany knows the size of Tangamed and the options which are linked to Tangamed, for example. I don't know if everybody in Germany knows how the government in Morocco invests in infrastructure, for example, trains and highways in Morocco. And I know that a lot of companies are much linked also into digitalization. So please let it know to your companies, because I know that you work together with French companies. I visit the Renault plant, and I know that the Renault plant is one of the most successful plant of the Renault group in the world. So these are also things maybe you can tell, because in combination, it's an answer to Mr. Wenzel's question, what is supply chain? You have a lot of opportunities to integrate yourself successfully into the supply chain. And I think it's also not only to show what you can do, it's also that you can show that there is the infrastructure and other opportunities for the supply chain available in Morocco. This is one maybe I forgot to tell before, because we as an association, we see huge opportunity also with our project Connect Achat. We're working together with the chamber quite close, because we think that we have to help our companies to work together, because I'm only responsible for my members, and my members are buyers, and buyers want to make good businesses. And I know that the chamber is responsible for the Moroccan companies, and they want to have the Moroccan companies to make good businesses. And that's why I think it's a good combination, Andreas.
Yeah, thank you very much, Olaf. I can only add to that. First of all, thank you very much for your cooperation from the BME, Olaf Holzgräfe, Agnes Janikowski. Thank you very much, Aljoscha Becker and Stefan Diepold, for the very interesting presentations we saw. And I can only add to what Olaf said, that we see a tendency in Europe, in Germany, that specifically post-COVID, companies are in need of diversifying their logistics chains, their value chains. There is a need for more transparency also in terms, you spoke about development policy, you spoke about the Supply Chain Act. So there is a lot of movement in German companies to look for new suppliers, for suppliers to also diversify supply chains, for suppliers to eliminate risk in supply chains. And Morocco, first of all, as a country, as a partner, is very well positioned. We spoke about geography, about infrastructure, about logistics. But I want to still add a point, and this is what you've mentioned as well. And there we also see our role as a chamber. And thanks to digital events, this is easier than in the past to highlight the industrial capability that the Morocco of today offers to Europe, offers to Germany. Because sometimes I think that in Germany there is still a view on Morocco that is like 1990 or 1980 style, and we do not really reflect on the development, on the successes that Morocco has been achieving over the last few years. And when I speak about industrial capabilities, if I look at Morocco, if I look at the members of the chamber, I speak about quality, I speak about engineering, I speak about human resources and well-trained human resources, specifically also in the field of engineering. I speak of German companies working together with Moroccan companies, also in research and development. So I think there is indeed huge opportunities for further and intensified cooperation. And this is where we, together with the German companies, with the BME, are very happy to work together and to provide a platform to link German and Moroccan business. Maybe just so much from my side to the end of this session, and we are very much looking forward for further digital, but also hopefully events in presence that will hopefully be possible in autumn, depending on the pandemic situation. But despite all the opportunities the digital world supplies us with, I think for long-lasting business relationship, personal meetings are still very important. And so let's hope that we can meet in autumn to discuss further initiatives and engagements also between the individual companies. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, Andreas. I think we can say we organized the first one last year. We organized the second one this year. So we're looking forward for the third one next year. And I'm looking forward also to visit Morocco again. Because I think I was sitting, my last time I was sitting in the plane was in March 2020. This never happened in my business life that I don't fly over a year. So I hope I can visit Morocco again. Not only my favorite place, Casa, also maybe Agadir again. So we're looking forward to our. Please stay in contact with the chamber, because we will point out a date for a second Moroccan seminar in the area of this purchase initiative in September, October, because I think we have to cover the whole opportunity of the Moroccan market for our companies, which have a big interest. Maybe Agnes, you can show. I think we have. Did we have a short overview about the companies already interested? Because I think it's also a who's who of companies want to participate, and maybe our Moroccan friends want to see. If you want to have the list, please contact our colleagues from the chamber. But we will make it big. So 31 companies. I think there are good companies beside of the Tetra Pak and BPW. You see, we have Siemens, we have also Kercher, we have Klaas. So we can say a little bit of the who is who, and there are people still in the communication with us. So contact the German chamber, contact Ms. Schmidt or Mr. Wenzel can give you all the information, and we are happy to organize a B2B with you end of the year. Thank you very much. I wish everybody a good holiday season. I think you definitely have better weather in Morocco than we have currently in Germany, but I think we get some sun back. So have a good time and see us maybe in September, latest in November. Thank you very much, Mr. Wenzel. Congratulations for your good team. Thank you very much for the cooperation, also to the Euro-Mediterranean Association. And yeah, let's do the second purchase initiative, and then next year we do the third initiative, and then definitely with face-to-face meetings and get together somewhere in the world.
Donc, merci beaucoup pour votre participation et on vous souhaite une très bonne journée. Et à bientôt, on espère.
Merci, à très bientôt.
Bye.
À bientôt, merci beaucoup.
Merci.
Merci beaucoup. À très bientôt.
Merci, au revoir.
Merci,
Merci à
au revoir.
toutes et à tous. Bonne journée, au revoir.
Au revoir.
Hey Agnes.